Did anything change yesterday from Wall Street's perspective, despite all of the big names showing up for the dinner?
Well, Guy, I would answer this in two parts. One, all these small deliverables, whether it be the fentanyl agreement, potentially Boeing, what is happening when it comes to climate change and new renewable progress both these countries want to see. And then, of course, some of the bigger priority for the administration is to get the military-to-military communications back on track. All of that was done, Guy, leading up to this visit. The fact of the matter is the deliverable was these two men of the biggest economy meeting. So to your point, Xi Jinping came into this knowing there wasn't going to be a big breakthrough when it comes to export controls or tariffs. But with that said, the second point is Xi Jinping struck a very dovish tone when he sat down with those CEOs yesterday. He said he does not want to unseat the United States. He says China does not want to engage in a hot or cold war. He is trying to make sure that he is setting a path forward for more foreign direct investment, which we have seen take a hit recently, as well as for more executives to come to China and to invest in China. Over the summer, Gina Raimondo said companies tell her time and time again that China is uninvestable. And she said she said this to Chinese leaders. And Xi Jinping really struck a dovish tone. I think he is trying to assuage those concerns.
Okay, so China direct investment has taken a humongous hit. I mean, that chart is pretty stark. And did anything over the last 24 hours help change that decline?
Well, it was a very conciliatory message, like Annmarie just said, but there are a couple of things going on with the China investment story. On the portfolio side, money is pouring out. It's on track to leave China at a record pace this year. That's because of the yield differential, for example. So that speech last night in San Francisco isn't going to change the money flowing into China's stocks and bond market. And then on the FDI side of things, that's where there's a lot of negative sentiment, because even though the Chinese leadership preaches that they're open for business, there has been very strict regulatory crackdowns on core industries. We've had, of course, raids on foreign business in China this year. All of that erodes confidence. Now, of course, this message is coming from the top, but I would have thought, given the sentiment indicators that have come out of the chambers of commerce in China over the past year or two, I think there will be a wait and hold approach, I think, in foreign business to see just where this tone and where this relationship does go from here.
Enda, as you say, series of small victories, but they're only small. So what needs to change, big picture, for the narrative to shift? We've got the charts up at the moment showing the foreign direct investment story, as you say, absolutely plunging. What needs to change going forward? Is it on the Chinese side? Is it a domestic story? Can anything change in the relationship with the United States to alter that investment story?
Well, so for investment on the Chinese side, there would have to be, say, an end to what looks like kind of arbitrary and random raids by the security services and foreign companies. That's obviously a source of concern for people doing business there. There would, of course, also have to be more steps towards bringing down market access, bringing down the kind of barriers that business complain about in China all the time. We know, of course, China is pursuing its own strategy of national champions down in the high-tech space, for example. There are key areas where China could take steps to alleviate foreign business. But of course, we're not there yet, and last night's speech doesn't change that, I think.
So to that point, Annmarie, if it's more of a wait and see, wait and hold perspective when it comes to, say, a company or a foreign direct investment versus not worse, is that kind of what they achieved over the last 24 hours?
Yeah, you know, Kurt Tong, who's a former diplomat in Asia, said this really wasn't a meeting about can it get better. It was a meeting about making sure this relationship doesn't deteriorate further. So it's about maintaining some level of communication and progress, putting a little bit of a floor on it. We should also note that it comes at a time when this administration is also, Joe Biden is running to be the president there's an election in November of 2024. So the rhetoric is going to get very hot. So it was like the last moment these two men could really meet before the temperature starts to rise again in terms of the rhetoric, because you've already seen President Biden pushed by the Republican Party saying he is not tough enough when it comes to China, even though this administration has kept the tariffs in place, has enacted more export controls on China. The rhetoric's going to get hotter. So it really is about putting a floor on this relationship and potentially trying to get back to what Biden calls a little bit more of a normal cadence when it comes to communication.